Welcome to another episode of a podcast named Tim. We're of course doing another Power Ranger review. Today's episode is I Guy, and it's episode 8 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And we're going to get right into it. As always, we're going to rate the episode, and then of course give our monster rating at the end. See, is this monster one of the strongest ever, or is it a joke? We'll find out. So here's my rating for I Guy. Billy and crew are hanging out with Willie, who is entering a science fair with a VR project. Basically, it's a VR roller coaster, and he is very obviously the over-the-top kids, 90s, quote unquote nerd. He's got suspenders on. He's got the train conductor hat. He's like a little mini me for Billy. I mean, his name's even Willie. Who would have known that could have happened in the world? But Rita wants to steal his intelligence. Clearly, he is an actual boy genius. And basically, as they're on the way to the science fair, the putties attack. There's a nice little slow motion action battle sequence here. The Rangers do end up winning, of course. And they don't capture Willie here because if not, we would miss the wonderful times that we have at the actual science fair. When they get there, there's a lot of different things going on. Basically, there's the big thing is Bulk and Skull show up, of course, and they don't like nerds. And again, quote unquote nerds. They show up. They take some kind of spray can of some sort from someone. They spray it. Skull sprays it on Bulk's pants. They disappear. And then they want to fight. They have a fight with Jason and them, and then get launched into basically it's like a booth, but it's a fashion booth where you can get your makeover done. They get that done. Of course, they come out dressing very effeminate, and then they run off. The professor here disqualifies Willie for literally no reason. He blames the fight and all the commotion that happened on him, even though it was all the older kids that were participating. But anyway, Billy is disqualified and runs off because he's not happy. Meanwhile, back at Rita's palace, what's been going on is Finster, of course, is finding the monster that is best suited for Rita's purposes this week. And he decides to he has a monster that he's used in the past, actually, for this exact purpose. It's what was interesting was he actually says that they did this on Regula 2, I believe is what it was called. In the closed captions, it's spelled RIEGEL 2. So apparently they have conquered another planet, or at least used this monster on another planet to steal kids' intelligence. Basically, it has like a giant. It's all covered in eyes. It's just one. It's called I Guy, so it's all just eyes. It was on the Super Nintendo video game. I know I've mentioned that a couple times. I just want to give a shout out because I played that game so much as a kid. But there's only a few more levels, so only a few more monsters that we'll hit. But this was one of the ones that you fought there. I think you fought in the sewers, which we're not in sewers here, but you fight I Guy in the sewers there. And it's again all covered in eyes, and then one big actual kind of main eye. And that's what we're going to find out later from Zordon is the weakness. But like I said, Willie earlier ran off, and for someone who was so smart, he is very dumb because this giant eye floats up to him. He's just like, "What do you want with me?" And then of course it immediately zaps him in, sucks him in, and he is trapped in it's like those G-force kind of testing gravity things you would play in where they kind of strap you in and it floats around and spins in all 360 degrees, but it's called the internal vortex, and it's obviously a dimension inside the eye guy's eye. Of course, Zordon has footage of this because he has cameras everywhere somehow. I would love to hear the lore or kayfabe reason why Zordon can always see the other dimensions of what's going on there, but either way, that happens. Power Rangers, of course, show up to save Willie, and they have him surrounded in a circle, and he actually fires a bunch of different blasts out of each of, I don't want to say each of his eyes, but a bunch of his different eyes to attack them. So he's, despite being surrounded, he is able to defend himself. They immediately go to the power blaster. They form it up, and wouldn't you know it, he survives the power blaster. That doesn't happen very often. It has not happened up until this point. Basically, all the eyes disperse, and then they come back together to form the actual eye guy. Zordon reminds the Rangers that they have to take out the big eye in order to get things taken care of. Billy, of course, wanting to save his little mini-me, runs off and takes the power lance and jabs him right in the eye. Immediately, he is taken care of. But, of course, it wouldn't be Power Rangers unless we have the giant, kaiju fight, essentially. And what's interesting here is, on top of the other things that the eye guy's done, he had the laser beam eyes, and he had the kind of the intelligence wave, I guess, where he sucks the kids into the dimension. He actually starts shooting his actual eyes, like physically the actual eye at the Megazord. So I thought that was interesting and comical, but I enjoyed that. Of course, Rangers at the Megazord, they take one swipe and take care of business. When we're back at the school, I guess this is at, or I guess it's at Ernie's place, the professor apologizes, said that he overreacted, and that's Willie's prize. Willie's invention gets first prize. And so Bulk and Skull show up, ask for their clothes back. They get them back, but they have been shrunk. So nice little comic note to end on, as always. I thought it was a decent episode. All of the monsters that are kind of in the video game, I have, small little nostalgia for. But I've always liked the idea of Eye Guy because as a kid, it's a giant eye monster, and that's cool. And as an adult, I'm basically just a kid. But as far as we're going to go through the ratings, if you have not seen one of these ratings before, we have 5 categories we base it off of. It's look, plan, powers, success, and voice. You can get 5 is the most you can get in each category. So if you're the greatest monster ever, it's a 25. And if you're the worst, it'll be a 5. So for the look, I gave it a 4. It's probably a 3. Typically, the main reason I bumped it up to a 4 was the actual just main Eye Guy suit is probably a 3, but I bumped it up 1 point because of that one single eye. It just looks so cool and so creepy that I think it's worth of a point. But so I gave a 4 for look. Plan, I gave a 3. This is a very typical Power Rangers plot. We're going to steal the intelligence of this kid. I don't know how smart he is. I don't know why we need his intelligence. Why aren't we going after Billy, who's clearly smart? I don't know. Kids' intelligence, I guess, are better useful. But either way, or maybe he is smarter than Billy. But so I gave 3 for the plan. For the powers, I gave a 5, which I know seems high, but I want you to hear me out. This is my first 5 out of 5, I think, on powers, other than maybe Bones, which was one of the first episodes. He's got he's got a blaster. You got to have some kind of energy blast. That's standard just to get to a 3. That means you're a villain. He can also shoot his regular eyes. So he got 2 different attacks. He can reform. He was able to take the hit from the power blaster, so he's able to reform in that. So that was really great. And he's got that beam to capture the kids and steal their intelligence. So it's a power specifically built for the plan that we're dealing with. I think with all those combined, this is a 5 out of 5, I think, powers. And for success, I think it's also a 5 out of 5. The reason being, the plan was to capture a kid and steal his intelligence. He captured the kid. He did it all by himself. Of course, they're not going to steal the intelligence because you never actually finish your plan in Power Rangers. You always get this close. The other thing is he took care of the Rangers pretty handedly. He survived the power blaster. That's a 5 out of 5 for me immediately because you shouldn't be able to survive that, and I doubt there's many monsters who do. So 5 for success, voice, 3 standard Power Rangers voice. Nothing bad, nothing great, but in total that is a 20. I believe it's the highest rated monster I've done on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers or on the Beast Morpher reviews, which I'm also doing concurrently. So far, Eye Guy kind of takes the cake. Bones, I think, was a 19 or a 20. He was in that range. That'd be the only monster that was kind of close. And you could argue to bring it down a little bit for the look or for the powers. I could see those going down by a point each. But even at the minimum, it's an 18, but I gave it a 20. I think it's a great monster. I think it's a good episode. Just because, mainly because it's that single eye, just that visual of that single eye floating around. I thought that was a great prop and great look. So that is my review for Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I, I Guy. Hope to see you next time, where we're going to be talking more Power Rangers, more Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and also on the channel we have Beast Morphers reviews, we have Mandalorian reviews, and other Star Wars things. And of course, subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are. We're a father and son movie review podcast. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check us out everywhere we are. It'll probably be in the description below. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time on a podcast named Tim.